All right. Now we're doing FreeCodeCamp, JavaScript algorithms and data structures, basic algorithm scripting, a chunky monkey. All right. So now we're going to write a function that splits an array, the first argument, so this one right here, into groups of length, the length of size, so this one right here, and returns them as a two-dimensional array. Okay. So basically they want us to break this thing down into an array of arrays, and the inner arrays are going to be this length of this stuff right here. So basically what it wants to see on this first one, it wants to see, let's comment this out, not that, like that. Let's comment this out. It wants to see an array that looks like this. Let's put the two arrays in there while we're at it. All right, so we want to have string A, comma, that's not comma B. Give me a second. And then maybe I should have set this up first, but I didn't. So there we go. And then we're going to go C, comma, and then D, like that. So this is basically how they want it to look. You know, an array with these arrays with inside of this array right here. Pardon me. All right. So how are we going to do that? That's the question, right? So the thing is, first things first, we already know that we're going to need this main array. So let's just start off by saying let result equal this main array like that, right? And then we're also going to need to get these other arrays right here. So to do that, we're going to make a temporary array. We're going to say temp equals another empty array like that. So what we're going to do here is now we're going to iterate through this array. So we're going to say for let I equal 0, while I is less than r.length, we'll say I plus plus, okay? So while we go through this, first things first, we're going to definitely need to push whatever r at I is inside of this temp, no matter what, guaranteed. So we're going to say temp dot push r at I, okay? So no matter what, it's going to push this stuff into this temp, okay? Now the thing is, when will it stop pushing this stuff into the temp and break off? How are we going to know? Well, we're just going to use an if statement, right? So we'll say something like this: if if temp equals size, how about that? If temp dot length, let's put if temp dot length equals size, what we're going to do is we're going to say temp result dot push temp. Okay, so we're going to push the temporary array into result. But the thing is, now it's still filled with A and B. How are we going to get rid of that so we can put C and D into the next one? Well, that's easy also. We'll just say temp now equals an empty array all over again, resetting the thing, right? And so now that we've got this, let's just come down here and say return result. And let's wrap this thing up in parentheses and say console.log. And you see, what does this look like? It looks pretty good, doesn't it? Let me put some spaces in here. How about that? Looks pretty good, doesn't it? Let's run the test, and we got some problems. So what's the problem here? Well, this number and this number is different. Anyway, let me just show you. Let's add over here. Let's do a comma, and let's add E to that. And you see, there's no E in here. You know why? Because it didn't put the last thing in there when it's an odd number, but it's looking for an even number of these. Hopefully you get what I'm saying. Anyway, so to fix that, we're going to say not only we're going to push the temp in there, because right now, when it does the result, this temp is still full of the E, but we didn't push it in there because this condition wasn't satisfied. So what we're going to do is say, or if I equals r.length minus 1, right? So there we go. We got the E right there because now I equals r.length minus 1, which means it's at this one right now. It will push the temp into the result, resulting in that. So let's run the test. Looks good. And guess what? There's other ways to do this, all right? This one's not as easy, and it's not as intuitive, and it's definitely not anything we've learned so far, but it's always good to see more ways to do stuff, right? Of course. So what we're going to do here, comment that out, and then we're going to do this ES6 style by saying const, and then we'll get this chunk array in groups. This equals this set of arguments right here. Copy that, drop it here, and then we're going to have the arrow like that. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do something different. We're going to create this main array using a built-in function, okay? And that built-in function, or the built-in method we're going to use, is this array.from static method, which creates a new shallow copied array instance from an iterable or array-like object, all right? So we're going to use an array-like object, and the array-like object we're going to use is going to be something just like this here. You see this object with the curly braces, and the length the length key has the value 5, right? So what we're going to do here is we're going to say array.from, and then we're going to have the object, and we're going to say length is something. Now, what's it going to be? Let's look at this thing right here. We know it's going to have 2. Well, let's add the other one now that we've got the E. So let's say string E, like that. So we've got this thing right here. How is these 3 elements, what does that relate to these 5 elements right here? Well, 5 divided by 2, 5 divided by this number right here would be 2.5, right? And what's 2.5 rounded up? It's 3, isn't it? Yeah. So let's say r.length divided by size, all right? And if you forgot how to round stuff up, we've got this math.ceil static method that always rounds up and returns the smallest integer greater than or equal to a given number. So we'll just wrap this thing up in parentheses, and we'll say in front of that math.ceil, like that. And you see now we've got this array. This has created this array with 3 elements in it, all right? So we've got the 3 elements we need. Now we just have to somehow fill them up with these, and this, all right? So if we come back to array.from, we know also that the other part of this syntax is after this comma for the array-like thing, this array-like thing right here, after this comma, we're going to put a map function, all right? So let's put a comma after this. And do you know what a map function is? I don't think we've gone over that. But you know what? We're going to go over that right now, all right? So a map function is basically the same as this array.prototype.map thing right here. It's just a little arrow function that goes inside of here. And in our case, it's going to do the same thing. But the syntax for the map function is the callback function, which the callback function is usually an element, comma, an index, comma, array as the arguments. And usually we don't use these two. But today we're not going to use this one, and we're not going to use this one. We're just going to be worried about the index, all right? So to only access the index instead of the element as well, all we have to do is throw these parentheses in there. Where are we? Let me push control. Okay, let's throw these parentheses in there like this. And we're going to say as the arguments, we're going to say underscore. That's going to be for the element since we're not going to use it. And then we'll also say index like that. And then we'll have the arrow like that. A little confusing, I know, but you'll get over it. So now what are we going to put in here? So what we have to do for each one of these elements is we have to somehow slice these two off, put them in here, then slice these two off and put them in here, and slice this one off and put it in here. What do we know that can slice something up? Maybe the slice method, right? So the slice method of array instances returns a shallow copy of a portion of an array into a new array object selected from start to end. End is not included, where start and end represent the index of items in that array, all right? So what we're doing is the shallow copy of the portion of the array, right? And that's what this stuff is. So we're going to say something like this, r.slice, since we're using the r, r.slice. And what we're going to do here is we're going to start like we know how. We're going to start at 0, which none of these are, but we'll start at 0 and then we'll go to 1. We'll go to 2 for this first one. So this one will be 0, 1, and then 2, 3, 4. All right, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, how are we going to do that? Well, this one, I had to go digging on the internet to figure this one out. But the thing is, for this one, what is 0? How's another way we can represent 0? We can do something like this. We can say size times, where's times? Times index, right? What are you talking about, man? Check it out. Index, right? What is this? This is index 0, right? What's the size? 2. So what's 2? What's 2 times 0? That's 0, right? So it's going to start at 0, all right? So now let's say comma. And now where does it end at? It ends at 1 past where we need it. So we want it to end at 2. Well, what's 2? This is 2, and this is 0. So what's 0 plus 2 is 2, right? So let's say size times, size times index plus size again, right? And wouldn't you know it, doesn't that work? It does. But you know what? Well, actually, let's go push the button just to see. There we go. But I'm sure you want more of an explanation because that is not good enough. I know it isn't, because it wouldn't be good enough for me. So it's 0 to 2. 0 times, 2 times 0, comma, 2 times 0 plus 2, right? So 0 to 2, this one not included, right? 0 to 2, this one not included, right? So what's the next one? It's going to be 1. So here's element 1, index 1. So size times 2, size, which is 2, times index, which is 1, that's 2. So it starts at 2, 0, 1, 2, starts here, and then goes till, what is this? 2 times 1 plus 2, 4. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, not included. So it puts these two in, and then it just keeps going on and on and on until we're done, right? And so let's change this to 3 and see what it does to the array. And you see it fills it up with 3 in this first one and 2 in the second one because there's not a third one. Let's make it 4. How about that? And so as you can see, it does it for anything we want. And like we did just a minute ago, if we run the test, looks good, and submit it. All right, finally finished with the hardest section that FreeCodeCamp has thrown at us so far, all right? So now we're on to this object-oriented programming. It's been well over a year, almost 2 years since I've done this, so I don't know if it's hard or not, but I'm pretty sure this is just a bunch of reading instead of all the thinking and the researching that we got to do for this one. So hopefully this one's going to be a lot easier. So now we're on to object-oriented programming, and we'll see you next time.